Today on JD Cars, we're transforming this fairly ordinary looking M Sport wheel on our BMW F30 into this gorgeous new wrapped and decked out wheel. Beamer boys and Beamer girls, welcome back to another video. Boys are out here grinding on the van today. Tito, what you got going on? Tearing this thing apart more?
Fixing the front headlight, because if you go in the trash can over there, there's like a shot glass worth of water in the old headlight. So
got a beauty right there.
Yeah.
It matches pretty well with the other ones.
Really?
Yeah. Where'd you get it?
AutoZone.
AutoZone for the win.
Some slight modification needed.
Natty's G-Wagon posted up. How's the G-Wagon doing on gas these days?
She's chill. I mean, she's guzzling, but she's chill.
She's guzzing. All right, well, we have a really exciting upgrade for the BMW today. I've been waiting to do this for quite some time. The interior stayed pretty stock. Other than the P3 gauge's vent gauge right here, has a bunch of pollen on it right now, but I've been loving this P3 gauge. Other than that, I haven't really done much to the interior. We did add paddle shifters to this non-paddle shifter wheel, and as you can see, we've got the F80 stock paddles on there right now. But other than that, the interior is really stock. We have those aftermarket floor mats with the red trim to match our trim up here, and we will be adding some more red trim to the wheel today, which I'm super excited about. I think it's all going to match up really nicely. But the main real reason we're going after the steering wheel today is if you look here on the inside, it's quite worn. It's definitely showing signs of use. It came off of a little bit higher mileage vehicle, and this just doesn't really look great. I don't know about you guys, but the steering wheel is really important to me. It's the biggest contact point with the car when you're driving it, and I want it to feel good. So today we're installing a new Miwant Alcantara steering wheel cover with a red indicator stripe at the top. Without any further ado, let's jump into the box here and see what we get from Miwant. Before we jump into the box, I just want to address one concern I had, and I'm sure many of you may have. When checking out the Amazon listing page for this, it said it was going to take at least a month, if not more, to get here. I thought that was kind of a drag, but I was super stoked to see that it actually came in just a week, which was a lot quicker than I anticipated. So let's jump into it here. Professional customization just for you. Even got a Beamer steering wheel right on there. Opening up the box, you're first greeted with your little installation kit here, which as you can see includes a plastic pry tool to pry up trim, tape to tape down our steering wheel cover, make sure it has no bubbling points, a little thimble, I think that's what this is called, right? A thimble for your finger, a needle, and some thread of your choice. You actually get to choose what color thread is included, allowing you to customize the stitching on the inside of the steering wheel. So I love that. Of course, we've got a little installation guide here, which actually has really good English instructions with color pictures here, which is always appreciated. This shows us how to install the cover and also how to stitch the cover, and it also shows us how to tie it off at the end, which is really helpful. And now for the main event itself. I'm super excited to see this. I've never put an Alcantara cover on a car before. Oh, it already feels so nice. Ooh, hoo, hoo. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It actually smells wicked good. Even got a red Alcantara strip at the top here. That's sweet. Red stitching all the way around to match our red accents. Obviously, it doesn't really look much like a steering wheel right now. We have to get it stitched on there, but right off the bat, I'm very happy with the material this is made of. Feels great. So this is everything we get in the box from Miwant, including our steering wheel cover and installation kit and installation guide. I'm stoked. I want to get this installed, so let's jump into it. Now, this first step probably isn't entirely necessary, but I've gone ahead and disconnected our rear negative battery terminal in the trunk, and I isolated the battery lead connector with a microfiber towel, so the car is not powered on right now. And I'm gonna try a couple different screwdrivers here, try to release our airbag from the steering wheel, so that we can unscrew our two button panels along with this center trim piece here, which should make tucking the edges in behind these trim pieces a little bit easier. You can supposedly do it without removing these pieces, but I really want to make sure I do a thorough job here. So we're going to try to pop loose airbag right now. All right, got one side, and there's the other. The M Sport wheel is not nearly as difficult as the standard wheel. So there's our airbag. got that pulled out. With the airbag removed, I'm going to use a T20 to remove 2 silver torque screws right here and 1 right behind this emblem on the back side of the steering wheel. And that should allow us to pull off this trim piece here. So with the lower spoke trim removed here, we can now remove another T20 torque screw. If your steering wheel is equipped with paddle shifters, we'll need to remove the paddle shifter in order to access the screw that holds on our button assembly. We got this button assembly loose. I did not, however, remove the screw entirely because this does not look like a fun screw to reinsert from the back of the wheel blindly. So I think we should be able to just leave the screw partially threaded into this button assembly, and we have plenty of access to tuck in the leather. I also just noticed something very helpful about simply loosening the screw is that by loosening the screw, we can move the rear steering wheel trim out, tuck the back edge in as well. I'm honestly kind of tempted to pull off the steering wheel entirely so we can just pull off the back plate and have full access.
You got this.
You know what? Yeah, screw it. A lot of you guys commented on the last steering wheel video that I did installing the wheel here in the car that I should have just removed the 1 bolt and pulled the wheel out of the car, and that supposedly that makes it a lot easier. I'm not sure. We're gonna give it a shot today. We're gonna pull it out of the car, try it that way, and I'll let you guys know which way I find easier. Time to break out the 16mm and break loose this steering wheel. Oh, there it is. Alright, so we're over at the workbench now, and this will make removing everything a lot easier, especially these buttons on the back. A lot easier access, and I'm not really concerned about getting the screw back in, so now we can just fully remove these screws and just set them aside on the workbench, which should allow us to pull these button assemblies entirely out. Alright, a few connections later, and we have the buttons entirely off of the wheel. This thing is looking really stripped down. It's gonna look real stripped down once we pull this back cover off. And holy smokes, we have a completely naked steering wheel, except for the few components left on here, but wow, this thing is stripped down. And I really don't like working on the wheel just loose here on the workbench, but I do have an idea. Gonna need the drill, Phillips bit, might need a Torx, we'll see. What does the spare hardware bin have for us today here? Grab a 2x4. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Well, I don't know how professional this is, but it'll work. Wheel's solid here. And we have good angles to work on it, so I think this should work well. Alright, so step 1 here, there's a sticker showing front and a sticker showing back. So this is the front edge. I'm gonna line up the red stripe with the top of the wheel, and we're gonna do a test fit before we start affixing anything. It is going to be a really tight friction fit. You're going to have to slide this thing over pretty aggressively, but it should fit. Alright, so we got this puppy all centered up. The wheel's a little off, so it might look like it's the right, but I hope this is centered. Kind of just looked down and tried to center it between those 2 bolts right there. But what I've just done is I've gone around and I've centered it this way with the existing stitching on the wheel here. So I basically lined up the back edge all the way around to be centered with the existing seam. And I did that all the way around the wheel here just to make sure everything's even before we start applying any tape and affixing this to the wheel. I also checked and made sure that everything is symmetrical on these seams and everything looks good. So at this point, we can take the double-sided adhesive that's included and we can start applying it to the inside of the steering wheel cover. Alright, so I didn't use the entire roll. They definitely give you some extra, and I'm sure they give you extra thread, but this is what we're looking like. I made sure to apply a lot on the area around the buttons here so it doesn't come out. Same thing down here. Made sure to be very thorough. And aside from that, I just did the entire perimeter, front and back. Definitely got a lot of tape on there. It's gonna be real fun peeling off all these backing pieces, but at least this will be secure on the wheel and we don't have to worry about it shifting. Before I do pull off the backing and start sticking this down to the wheel, I'm gonna go around once more and just make sure that this is centered, just in case I shifted it while I was installing the tape. But I'll see you once we have this stuck down and we're ready to start stitching. Alright, we have it entirely taped down all the way around now, and I just grabbed our center third spoke trim, and I was checking out the fitment here at the bottom, because this leather doesn't really go in very much. It could go in a lot more, and I see why they do that. It's because they don't expect you to remove all of this, but that leather doesn't really go underneath this very much, so you really have to pull quite hard and pull it down to the center here on both sides, and make sure you've taped really well on this edge and affix it. I got to fit very, very nicely to my liking, but it did take some tinkering with, so pay attention to that area. Definitely test fit with your trim before you do anything, any stitching that is. And with that in mind, it's now time to start stitching. So we're gonna grab our thread and needle, and basically what we're gonna do is we'll go through the back piece. What the heck is that fly doing? Anyways, we're gonna go through the back piece of material itself. We're just gonna go right through it, not even an existing hole. We'll go through that, then we'll come back around and go through this existing stitch right here on the end, and then we'll go through the existing stitch on the other side of the material, kind of tying them together. And from there, we'll start our one skip pattern of coming back over to this side, going into this third stitch, and then we'll switch to the other side, going to the fifth stitch, the seventh stitch on this side, so on and so forth. We'll just keep skipping a stitch until we get all the way to this side, at which point we'll have to tie it off and start another one for each of these sections. Alright folks, we are done with our top section of stitching. Looking at it now, it doesn't look too bad. I'm not upset with it, but the one thing I am a little upset with is, if our camera focuses in here, there it is, there was a gap. I don't know if this is on me. This is probably on me. I'll take responsibility. I should have pulled the wrap like more firmly around the wheel to get that gap to close a little bit more. As you can see, there's a little gap there, but you know, I can still pull together the bottom here, which is really going to be the visible part. This, you're not going to really see that at all. You're going to be looking at the wheel like this, of course, so I'm not really upset about that. The stitching is looking pretty good. Pretty consistent stitch pattern all the way across. I did double stitch our red stripe up top here just to make sure that stays together. I didn't want that coming apart at all. I don't know, just felt like I should. And I want to recap how I tied it off here at the end, because it can be a little confusing. Basically what I did was, I got to the end here. As you can see, it was an off stitch. So I was on the second to last stitch on the back, and I came to the last stitch right here. I went through that last stitch into the last stitch of the back side, all the way through, looped it around, pulled it tight, went back through, looped it around, and pulled it tight. And then I stuck it through the leather right here, or the Alcantara rather. I stuck it through the Alcantara in a new hole, and I knotted it off twice around itself. And this should not be coming loose whatsoever. I'm pretty confident in that. Other than that, wheel's feeling great. I'm super excited to throw this back in the car. At this point, get cranking on the lower half, get this bad boy back in the car. Alright, sun's starting to go down. It's almost dinner time, but we got the wheel installed. I don't want to show you too much yet. Yes, it's gorgeous, yes, but we still have some goodies to put on tomorrow, so I'm not going to show you the final reveal just yet. I have two very exciting things that I want to toss on there. Paddle shifters and a new emblem, so we'll see that tomorrow. I'll catch you guys then. Alright folks, we are back in the garage here. Next day, ready to get back at it. I've done some driving with our new Alcantara steering wheel cover here. Oh, is she gorgeous or what? And as you can see, we have a new steering wheel emblem on the center there to match all of our new emblems on the outside. I was already running black badges all around the outside, but they were quite faded from being in the sun for 2 years, and they were pretty inexpensive, so I got a new set here. Same deal on the dirty brake dust covered wheels here and on the trunk as well. Car could definitely use a bath, but we are not quite done with this steering wheel. There's one more modification today, at least one more modification that I'd like to make that I've been waiting to do for a while now. I wasn't in a huge rush because I have had the F80 paddles on there, which I like a lot more than the stock F30 paddles, the big clunky M Sport ones that is, but that doesn't mean they're the best paddles. There is another option from Keys Motorsports. We've got sitting on the workbench here, and I'm just gonna stop talking and we're gonna get into the box here. I'm super excited to see these. Ooh, baby. All right, the less exciting part, all hardware necessary is included in the kit here. Oh my gosh, they're even sicker than I expected. Holy smokes, look at these shifters, or paddle shift extensions rather, but jeez, look at these puppies. Oh, okay, I thought the Keys branding was on the front. That's kind of a cool touch that is engraved on the back. On the front, we do have a plus and a minus. That's the front look right there. Oh, let's get them out of the plastic and take a closer look. Well, no doubt these things look awesome. They feel awesome, super smooth, wicked nice machining. I'm not sure if I'll actually need these plastic bits on this ride because we already have the F80 paddles installed. I'm pretty sure these black plastic bits are actually to convert from the stock F30 paddles over to this new F80 style paddle shifter extension, but we're about to find out. We might actually need them. I'll show you how we'll need to install them regardless. But let's go tear into the steering wheel and get these installed. We do want to disconnect our negative battery terminal as a safety precaution while working with the airbag up front. So we're just going to loosen up this little 10mm lead right here. Grab yourself a dirty microfiber or any rag really, lift up the lead and then isolate it with the rag so it can't make contact. On the M Sport wheel, just as on a standard wheel, you'll have one hole on each side. Just want to insert the screwdriver straight back as possible to release a spring, pull the airbag out, hold it, and go over to the other side to do the same thing. Okay, not bad at all. Now you can just pull the airbag out and disconnect the airbag connector, setting this aside. Now our paddle shifters here are connected with two blue connectors. We'll want to find them. This one is tucked away to the right, so we'll pull this one out. Just get that easily accessible. We'll disconnect our two blue paddle shifter connections and then we'll unscrew them. Now using our T20 Torx, we'll remove the screw on either side, holding in our paddle shifters. Now with the paddle shifter loose, we can just pull it right out. And we'll bring these over to the workbench to get a closer look at them. All right, so we've now got two paddle shifters that we have to pull apart. We're gonna use a straight pick tool, and there's two sides to a pin. This is the side we want to push. As you can see, it's kind of indented. The other side has a larger head and it's not indented. It's actually poking out just a little bit. So we're gonna poke on the thin side here, poke that pin through, we'll pull it out. Make sure not to break it. These components are all very fragile, so trying to be careful here. Can get a little hairy at this point, but the button assembly comes off. Try not to lose any of these little springs or parts that may come out. But just in case yours comes apart like mine just did, this is what it should look like, plus this little piece on top. So you want those two little rubber buttons touching the circuit board and this plastic piece on top, which gives us our button action. And you want this little spring up top. So this is what it should look like. If it comes apart at all, just put it back together like this and carefully set it aside. And just to stay consistent with using all of the Keys parts, I am going to use the black plastic pieces, even though we could probably transfer it over from this F80 paddle. I don't really see the point, so we can just set this aside for now. I'm gonna grab a Phillips head and remove the little screw along with this plate and pull that out. Now we'll take this little plate that we removed and we'll slide it right on over the new paddle shifter, making sure that this little tongue here goes into this groove. With that inserted, you can now take this, put the back plate back on, and secure it with the little Phillips head screw. Now we can take the button assembly, and similar to how we removed it, probably better to hold this like so, and then bring the paddle over like this. Yep. That's what we're looking for. So now we just need to line up the hole for the pin. Again, making sure to put the skinny tip through the large hole and out to the other side. Just make sure that that's fully inserted and it shouldn't go anywhere. Now this paddle is ready to go in the F30. And just like that, with our new paddles swapped over to the buttons, we can take these back over to the car and get them installed. Just the reverse process of before, we want to guide our blue connector through the back of the wheel here. Pull it on through. Oh, it's already looking sweet. Pull that connector on through, grab one of our T20 screws, and gently secure the paddle shifter in place. Be sure not to over tighten this. It really does not need to be tight at all. Just make sure it doesn't move at all, back and forth, and you're good. Well, honestly, in just a matter of minutes, we have these installed. That was a lot easier than I expected. All we have to do now is reinstall our airbag, make sure it's plugged in correctly and fit it in there securely, reconnect our battery, and we'll make sure our paddles are working properly. Alright folks, oh, look at those things. Let's just do a quick test in the driveway here. Make sure that our paddles work as they should. Alright, coming around corner, first gear. Second gear, let's go. They work. Well folks, our custom BMW steering wheel is complete. I am super stoked with how it came out. I mean, just look at this thing. It's gorgeous. I love how the red colors all come together in the interior here. Even though they're all just accents, there's really no red upholstery other than that red little strip up top. But it's kind of crazy, just red lines, red stitching, red lines around the mat, and that accent on the dash all come together with the red stitching on the wheel and these awesome new brilliant red aluminum CNC extended paddle shifters from Keys. I've yet to actually take this out on the road yet for a rip, but just playing with these paddles here in the driveway, the feel is great. I wasn't expecting it to feel any better, but it actually does feel better than those stock F80 paddles. I don't know, they were just a little small, a little cheap feeling. These are a lot more substantial, easier to reach, especially because the paddles move with the wheel. They're not stationary paddles like on a Lamborghini or something like that. So nice that we have a larger paddle now. It's bright red. You're sure to see it even when driving a little bit spiritedly, let's say. But yeah, I'm stoked with this. I think this cover's awesome. It feels great, looks great, and we can always take it off if we want to go back to the stock wheel. So that is going to wrap up today's video on decking out our BMW F30 steering wheel. This was a really fun project. Didn't take a ton of time or a ton of money, and I think it was well worth it. Let me know what you guys think of the new wheel down in the comments below. What color schemes you would want to do on your car. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on JD Cars.